Sometimes the greatest act of love isn't holding on but letting go. And sometimes letting go feels like your entire world is being ripped apart piece by agonizing piece. My name is Sarah, and for 5 glorious, heartbreaking years, I was a mother. Not in the way most people understand it with birth certificates and hospital bracelets, but in every way that mattered. My nephew Leo was my sun, moon, and stars. He was the reason I woke up every morning, the tiny hand I held through grocery store aisles, the infectious giggle that filled my small apartment with a joy I'd never known. He was 5 when his mother, my sister Emily, returned. 5 years after she dropped him off at my doorstep with a suitcase and a hastily scrawled note. 5 years of silence. 5 years of me building a life around a child who wasn't biologically mine, but was irrevocably mine in every fiber of my being. She didn't just come back to visit, she came back to take him. And that's when my world, the one I'd so carefully constructed, shattered into a million irreparable pieces. It was a Tuesday late autumn when my life irrevocably changed. I remember the chill in the air, the kind that whispers of winter, and the way the porch light cast long, nervous shadows. Emily, my younger sister, stood there, not with her usual bright smile, but with a haunted look in her eyes and a small sleeping bundle in her arms. "Sarah," she whispered, her voice raspy, I, I need your help." That bundle was Leo, barely 3 months old, his tiny fist curled around nothing, his breath soft and even. Emily was in a bad place, caught in a spiral I couldn't pull her out of. She was battling demons I couldn't see, addictions she wouldn't name, and a fear that clouded her every decision. Just for a little while, she'd promised, her eyes pleading. "Just until I get back on my feet, I swear, Sarah, I'll be back for him." I'd never planned on being a mother. My life was simple, predictable. I had my quiet apartment, my steady job as a graphic designer, my weekends spent curled up with a book or hiking a local trail. Children weren't in the picture. But looking at that tiny, innocent face, feeling the surprising weight of him in my arms, something shifted inside me. It wasn't a choice. It was an instinct, raw and powerful. "Of course, I'd said the words, feeling foreign yet right. "He can stay here. Take your time." Take your time turned into weeks, then months, then years. Emily's calls grew more sporadic, her promises thinner, until they faded into silence altogether. And as her presence dwindled, Leo's grew. He filled my apartment with baby babble, then toddling footsteps, then the boisterous laughter of a preschooler. He called me Mama Sarah, a title that seeped into my soul and reshaped me from the inside out. We had our rituals: Saturday morning cartoons with pancakes shaped like animals, bedtime stories where he'd fall asleep with his head on my chest, trips to the park where he'd chase pigeons with unbridled joy. I taught him to tie his shoelaces, to ride a bike, to share his toys. I celebrated his first lost tooth, his first day of kindergarten, his triumphs, and his scraped knees. Every milestone was a confirmation that this was our life, a tapestry woven with threads of unconditional love and unwavering commitment. I poured every ounce of myself into being his mother. I learned to navigate the world of playdates and parent-teacher conferences. I became fiercely protective, my heart swelling with pride at every small victory, aching with worry at every cough or fever. He wasn't just my nephew. He was my son in every sense that mattered to my heart. We were a unit, a team. People in my small town knew us as Sarah and Leo, an unbreakable pair. His smile was my greatest reward, his embrace my truest comfort. I truly believed this was how it was meant to be. This was our destiny, a beautiful, unexpected gift born from a moment of desperation. But destiny, as I was about to learn, can be a cruel trickster. It started subtly, like a whisper of smoke before the fire, a missed call from an unknown number, a vague email from Emily's old email address, just a checking in, that felt more like a formality than genuine concern. I tried to dismiss them. After all, Emily had been absent for so long. Why now? Why break the silence? My heart, however, started to beat a little faster, a tiny seed of unease taking root in the fertile ground of my newfound happiness. Then came the Facebook friend request. Emily. Her profile picture was new, vibrant, a stark contrast to the hollow-eyed woman who'd stood on my porch 5 years ago. My thumb hovered over the confirm button, a strange mix of fear and curiosity warring within me. What did she want? Was she finally okay? Or was this something else? I accepted, my stomach churning. Her feed was a curated highlight reel of a life I didn't recognize: new city, new job, new friends. It was as if the past 5 years, the years I'd spent raising her son, had simply vanished, erased from her narrative. There was no mention of Leo, no acknowledgement of the life I'd built for him. The direct messages started shortly after, casual at first. "How's my little guy doing? He must be so big now." Each message felt like a little invasion, a tiny pinprick in the protective bubble I'd created around Leo and me. I replied cautiously, sending pictures updates on his latest milestones. I told myself it was good that she was finally getting better, that she was taking an interest. But deep down, a tremor of dread vibrated through me. This wasn't just taking an interest. This felt like reconnaissance. One afternoon, a package arrived. It was addressed to Leo from Emily. Inside was a ridiculously expensive toy, something I never would have bought him, something that screamed guilt and overcompensation. Leo was thrilled, of course, but I felt a chill. This wasn't a spontaneous gesture. It was strategic. It was an attempt to buy her way back into a relationship she'd abandoned. I started looking back at the past 5 years, at all the excuses, the broken promises, the sheer absence. The narrative I'd built, that she needed time, that she was healing, began to crumble. A new, more cynical one emerged. Maybe she just didn't want the responsibility. Maybe she just wanted the idea of a child without the messy, demanding reality. My suspicions solidified when she started calling. Not just me, but Leo. She'd video call him, showering him with compliments, telling him stories of a life he knew nothing about, hinting at grand adventures she'd take him on. He was captivated, of course. To a 5-year-old, this new aunt who bought him lavish gifts and told exciting tales was like a character from a storybook. I watched him, my heart aching, as he brightened at the sound of her voice, completely unaware of the storm brewing on the horizon. I tried to interject to explain things in a way he could understand, but Emily would expertly redirect, charming him with promises. One evening, after one of her calls, Leo turned to me, his big eyes wide. "Mama Sarah," he asked, "Aunt Emily said she's coming to get me soon. Is that true?" The question hit me like a physical blow. The air left my lungs. My worst fear, the one I hadn't dared to name, was suddenly standing right in front of me in the innocent voice of the child I loved more than life itself. I knelt down, trying to keep my voice steady, my hands trembling slightly as I brushed his hair from his forehead. "Leo," I began, but the words caught in my throat. How do you explain abandonment to a 5-year-old? How do you explain that the woman who gave him life, then disappeared, was now returning to claim him, shattering the only family he'd ever known? The knot in my stomach tightened, a cold, hard lump of dread. I knew with chilling certainty that my fight was just beginning. The subtle hints turned into overt demands. Emily's calls became more frequent, her tone less tentative, more assertive. She talked about her son as if I were merely a babysitter, an interim solution. Each mention of reclaiming him felt like a stab, a dismissal of every sleepless night, every scraped knee, every tear wiped away, every triumph celebrated. My heart, once a sanctuary of love, was now a battlefield of anger, fear, and a profound sense of betrayal. I tried to reason with her. "Emily, you can't just waltz back in after 5 years. He doesn't even know you." "He's my son, Sarah, my blood." She'd retort, her voice laced with a newfound self-righteousness. "You had your fun. Now it's my turn." My fun was raising a child, dedicating my life to his well-being. Fun, the audacity was breathtaking. I started to dig. Not out of spite, but out of a desperate need to understand, to protect Leo. I reached out to mutual friends, distant relatives. What had Emily really been doing these past 5 years? Her Facebook profile, I realized, was a carefully constructed facade. The truth, when it finally emerged, was even uglier than I'd anticipated. Emily hadn't just gotten on her feet. She'd been in and out of rehab, struggled with various jobs, and had been living a transient life until very recently. The new city, the new job, it was all real. But it was recent. And the reason for her sudden resurgence, a new boyfriend. A wealthy older man who, according to a mutual friend, wanted a complete family picture. Leo wasn't just her son. He was a missing piece in her carefully curated new life. She hadn't changed. She'd simply found a new angle, a new way to avoid responsibility until it became convenient. My stomach lurched. All this time, I'd blamed her past struggles, felt sympathy. Now all I felt was a searing rage. She hadn't just abandoned Leo, she was using him. The discovery hit me like a tidal wave. All the pain, the sacrifice, the boundless love I'd poured into Leo suddenly felt trivialized, cheapened. I wasn't just hurt, I was incandescent with fury. How could she be so callous? How could she prioritize an image a man over the well-being of her own child? My hands shook as I scrolled through old messages, old photos, seeing them through this new cynical lens. Every thank you she'd ever sent, every promise, every casual inquiry about Leo's health. It all felt like a lie, a performance designed to keep me compliant while she lived her life free of consequence. The worst part was the fear for Leo. He was happy, thriving. He had stability routine and a mother who adored him. How could I rip him away from everything he knew? Everything that made him feel safe just because his biological mother had suddenly decided she wanted him back. My heart ached for the innocent child who was about to be caught in the crossfire of adult selfishness. I knew I had to confront her. Not just about her lies, but about the profound impact her actions would have on Leo. This wasn't just about custody. It was about a child's emotional well-being, his sense of security. And I knew with a chilling certainty that Emily, despite her new facade, was still the same person who had left her infant son on my doorstep. Could I truly trust her with his fragile heart? The answer echoed in my soul, cold and clear. No. The confrontation was inevitable, and it was brutal. I chose a neutral territory, a quiet coffee shop, hoping the public setting would keep things from spiraling completely out of control. It didn't. Emily walked in radiating a brittle confidence, dressed in designer clothes that screamed, "I've made it." I, on the other hand, felt raw, exposed, every nerve ending frayed. Emily and I started, my voice tight. "We need to talk about Leo, really talk." She sat down, a dismissive wave of her hand. "What's there to talk about, Sarah? I'm stable now. I'm ready to be a mother to my son." "Your son." The words came out sharper than I intended. "He's been my son for 5 years, Emily. 5 years of you being gone. 5 years of me raising him, loving him, being his mother while you were off. Wherever you were." Her eyes narrowed. "That's unfair. I was dealing with things. You know that." Dealing with things? I leaned forward, my voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "You were using Emily. You were running. You left an infant on my doorstep. Do you have any idea what that did to him? What that did to me on?" She flinched but quickly recovered, her jaw set. "I'm clean now. I've got a great job, a stable relationship. Leo deserves to be with his real mother." "Real mother?" I scoffed, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. "The one who abandoned him. The one who only wants him back because her rich boyfriend wants a ready-made family. Don't insult my intelligence, Emily. Or worse, don't insult Leo." Her face flushed, betraying her calm facade. "How dare you? You have no right to judge my life." "I have every right when your life choices directly impact a child I've raised as my own." I slammed my hand on the table, the cups rattling. People around us glanced over, but I didn't care. "You think you can just swoop in and take him? You think 5 years of silence means nothing. He barely knows you, Emily. He calls me Mama Sarah." "He'll adjust," she spat, her voice rising. "Children are resilient. Resilient or traumatized." My voice cracked with emotion. "He's 5, Emily. He needs stability, not another chaotic chapter orchestrated by your whims. What happens when this new life gets hard? When he gets sick? When he misbehaves? Are you just going to drop him off somewhere else again?" Her eyes, usually so guarded, flickered with a flicker of shame, quickly replaced by anger. "I've changed, Sarah. You just don't want to give him up. You're selfish?" "Selfish." The word hit me like a punch. "I'm fighting for him, Emily. I'm fighting for his happiness, for his sense of security. I've given him my life, my heart, everything. You've given him a new toy and a vague promise." The battle lines were drawn. Her eyes were hard, resolute. "He's coming with me, Sarah, one way or another. I'll take you to court if I have to." The threat hung in the air, cold and definitive. I looked into her eyes, truly looked. I saw the same self-interest, the same avoidance of true responsibility. And in that moment, a devastating realization hit me. This wasn't a negotiation. This was a war, and Leo was the prize. My mind raced. A messy custody battle would be devastating for Leo, dragging him through the emotional ringer, forcing him to choose. Could I put him through that? Could I win? Even if I did, would Emily simply disappear again, leaving a gaping wound in his heart? The thought of Leo caught between us, heartbroken and confused, was unbearable. A wave of exhaustion washed over me, heavy and suffocating. I closed my eyes, picturing Leo's smiling face, his innocent belief in the world. He deserved better than this. He deserved peace. I opened my eyes, meeting Emily's gaze. My voice was calm, almost chillingly so. Fine, I said the word, a bitter taste in my mouth. But on my terms, we will transition him slowly. You will prove to me, and more importantly to him, that you are truly capable of being a mother. And if you ever hurt him again, if you ever disappear, I will fight you with every fiber of my being. Do you understand? It wasn't victory. It was surrender, born of a desperate love and a profound fear. It was the hardest decision I had ever made, a choice that tore my soul in two. But it was for Leo, always for Leo. The transition was agonizing, a slow, torturous dismantling of the life I'd known. Leo, bless his innocent heart, was confused. He didn't understand why Aunt Emily was suddenly around so much, why his routines were changing, why Mama Sarah had tears in her eyes when she hugged him goodbye. Emily surprisingly stuck to the plan, at least initially. She showed up for visits, took him for short outings, and slowly, painstakingly began to build a fragile bridge to her son. Every time he left with her, my apartment felt emptier. The silence louder, the ache in my chest, a physical presence. The first few weeks after he officially moved were a blur of grief. My world, once vibrant with Leo's laughter, was now muted gray. I'd walk past his empty room, the little race car bed still perfectly made, and feel a sharp, visceral pang of loss. I cried in the shower, on my couch sometimes, even at my desk, trying to hide the raw pain from my colleagues. It was a kind of bereavement, a grief for a life that was, and a future that had been stolen. People would say, "He's still your nephew, Sarah," and while true, it felt dismissive of the profound maternal bond that had been severed. But as the initial shock subsided, a new, quieter emotion began to emerge, a fierce, protective love that transcended physical presence. I realized that letting him go, hard as it was the only way to truly protect him from a brutal custody battle from a mother who would prioritize her ego over his peace. My surrender wasn't a sign of weakness. It was an act of profound strength, a sacrifice made for the child I loved more than my own happiness. I didn't disappear from Leo's life. I called him, visited him, and Emily surprisingly allowed it. Perhaps she knew deep down that she needed me as a backup, or perhaps a tiny flicker of her old self, the sister I once knew, had reemerged. I made sure he knew every single day that Mama Sarah loved him fiercely and unconditionally. I focused on building my life again, but with a new perspective. I started volunteering at a children's literacy program, pouring my nurturing energy into other young minds. I picked up old hobbies, reconnected with friends I'd neglected. The emptiness never completely vanished, but it became less of a gaping wound and more of a quiet space within my heart reserved for Leo. Years have passed since that devastating day. Leo is a teenager now, a bright, kind, and thoughtful young man. He still calls me Mama Sarah, and he knows the truth, or at least his version of it. He understands with the clarity of hindsight the sacrifices made, the love that transcended bloodlines. Emily. She's still Emily. Her life is a roller coaster, but Leo, thankfully, has a strong sense of self and an unwavering core of love from both his mothers, the one who gave him birth and the one who raised him. To anyone who has poured their heart and soul into raising a child who isn't biologically theirs, only to face the agonizing prospect of letting them go, your love is real, your sacrifice is immeasurable, and the bond you forged, the foundation you laid, will never be truly broken. It shifts, it changes, but it endures. It's a love story unlike any other one, filled with both profound pain and unparalleled beauty. And sometimes the greatest act of love isn't holding on, but finding the strength to let go, trusting that the love you instilled will carry them forward no matter where life takes them. What about you? Have you ever had to make an impossible decision for someone you love, even if it meant breaking your own heart? Share your story in the comments below.